Hello, Aruna. It is fantastic to have you here today. We're going to speak on a number of topics, including your career journey, some highlights, of course, looking at the current market conditions, and also talk about inclusive leadership. So I want to welcome you here today.
Thank you very much, Sam, for having me.
So I'm very much looking forward to speaking with you today on a number of topics. But before we begin, can you tell us what was your childhood like? What was your upbringing like in Pakistan?
I belong to a family of 5, my parents and 3 siblings. And I was born and brought up in Karachi in Pakistan. My parents were extremely focused on us getting a good education and going to a good school and university. And I say that because at the time that I went to school, Pakistan had a literacy rate of under 40% with an even smaller female representation. And so I could say that I was pretty fortunate that way. And then also culturally, the expectation for women was to join, was not to join a company, but rather to find a marriage partner and to get married and settle down. But the family focus was clearly around being more independent and having your choices. And with that support, then I decided to pursue a career after finishing my MBA. When I applied to Maersk and when I went in, I remember the first day, I was one of 2 or 3 women in the organization and perhaps the only one on the business side. And I remember also getting a number of very weird looks from people around. One person even commented, "What's a woman doing here? And what is she going to do?" From there to becoming eventually the managing director and the first female managing director for Maersk in Pakistan, I think we've come a long way. And at the time that I left also, I'm very proud to say that I left with a gender ratio of 30% at Maersk. So I'm very proud of that journey. I think we've come a long way, and I'm very proud of that.
So you should be. You are indeed an inspiration. So you touched upon when you first joined Maersk, and you've had most of your career spent here. But can you tell us what was it like in the role as the managing director of Pakistan? What were some of the key learnings and impacts?
I think it was, I can very safely say, a very impactful role, especially in light of the strategy for the logistics strategy that we've had, because the infrastructure in Pakistan has been quite dismal. And I could just give you a couple of examples of how I feel we created impact as Maersk and how much the purpose means to some of the people at Maersk. When we look at Pakistan, it produces a lot of fruits and vegetables and perishables, but almost 30% of them go to waste because of a lack of infrastructure, lack of cold storage facilities, and so on. With the work that we did in developing that infrastructure, building warehouses, building cold storage solutions, and transportation solutions, we were able to significantly reduce that wastage of food, enabling livelihoods and enabling the country to export more and to generate the US dollars that they need in order to run the economy. And I think that's a huge impact, not just for us as Maersk, because obviously we did well there, but also in terms of the impact we created for society and livelihoods of people.
Wow, so a very proud moment, I guess, especially being your hometown as well. But now you are quite far from home. We're here in Denmark, and we'll soon get onto the role that you're doing, but I might just interject there. Has there been any surprises in terms of the culture from, of course, moving from where you grew up and have spent a lot of your career to coming here?
Before I talk about the culture, I think I must refer to the cold.
Yes.
Moving from a plus 25 to a minus 5 and being comfortable in that by now, I think itself is a big change for me. But having said that, I have lived also in England and in Australia, so I can't say there's been, a lot of change. But the last 7 years I have been in Pakistan, and so from that perspective, it's not just a change for me, but also for my daughter. A couple of things that I must say is the simple living here is very, very refreshing. And at the same time, the independence, I feel, particularly as I see it from my daughter's perspective, it's not very common to be able to go to school, walk to school 10, 12 minutes, even if that's a short time and distance, but it's something that we're not able to do back home in Pakistan. And I think that independence that you feel and you see your daughter having, I feel is very refreshing and very welcome.
No, I can definitely identify there, having moved from the UK to here, and my children now cycle to school by themselves, and they're like 9 and 7. And you just think, if I was in the UK, I'd be like having a bit of a panic attack. So yeah, there is a cultural difference there. Yeah, and now you are the Managing Director for Sealand Europe and Mediterranean, quite a large region and very diverse. What would you say has been top of your priority in terms of meeting the needs of the customers here?
Yes. Firstly, it's one big, huge market in Europe and 40 plus countries and multiple cultures. So it's the needs are extremely different when you move from, say, Spain to an Italy to a UK to a Poland. But the customers in Europe, especially the ones who have their markets, the consumer market in Europe, they have very differing needs, and depending on where they are, plus also what industry they operate in, the needs could be very different for a reefer customer. We also have Egypt within the scope of the region, which is again a big market for fruits and vegetables, which supply to North Europe. The needs are extremely different from one to another. And for those unique needs, what they need is localized people, regional expertise, and that's something that we offer in Sealand.
So one of those verticals that you're talking about, we recently announced a rail solution from Spain to the UK. Can you tell me why this was such an important service?
Spain produces a lot of perishable items, fruits and vegetables. It's also called the Garden of Europe. And usually the best way or the usual way of transportation of these fruits and vegetables has been either via ocean, where the transit times are too long, or via truck, where the transits are short, but the cost is too high, and so is the carbon emissions. I think the reefer rail solution provides a very good alternate to both these options because it provides better transits than the ocean, but it has a very good carbon footprint. And a lot of our customers felt this as a huge gap and a need in order to be able to reach consumers on time, but with a lower carbon footprint in the rest of Europe. And this solution actually fills that gap really well.
Fantastic. So we can talk about logistics all day, but we're going to just switch it up a little bit here because I know that many of our followers are very interested in terms of who you are as a leader because you've inspired many. What would you say are your leadership traits and the style that you're leading?
So I believe very heavily on empowering people, but I also talk very often about potential. So I believe that we shouldn't talk too much about targets, but about the potential that we have on an individual basis and the potential we have as a team, and therefore the potential we would have in changing the business. And my role, I feel, as a leader is to create that enabling environment that will empower people to really unleash the potential in themselves and to set the bar high for themselves as individuals in terms of learning and applying themselves, but also then applying and coming together as a team to lift the business to soaring heights. And I feel that's my role as a leader, to be able to enable that environment.
I think you certainly did that because you first came to my mind when it was during the pandemic, and some of the leadership qualities that you exhibited in that role in Maersk Pakistan in terms of leading a team and helping our customers through such a challenging time. What would you say is some of the most important traits in a leader when it comes to times of challenge? Because of course, if we look at market conditions, we can see recession, cost of living crisis. What do leaders need to do in times of challenge?
I think what people really need is to be understood. And as a leader, it's very important to listen and to have the empathy with the people and with the people on your team. And I feel that that's something that a lot of leaders were able to do in Maersk, particularly during the time of the pandemic, because we're all people, we're all humans, we were all going through the similar tough times. And whilst there was a business to deliver, we also needed to make sure we were able to connect at a human level with our team members. We actually came together as a family. We were able to listen to each other, we were able to understand what each of us were going through, and we were able to talk about it and overcome it, and then come together as a team to really deliver the results of the business.
It seems from what you're saying there is, I guess, a cycle of learning, because you came in as one of the few women in the business at the time. And a lot of talk now is about inclusive leadership, gender parity, equality, in terms of just empowering people to live their best lives. What do you think makes the difference from, as you mentioned before, having these targets and KPIs to an organisation truly living and breathing these types of values?
Look, I think inclusion to me is about people being able to come to work fully as they are. And as leaders, it's important that we create the space that enables them to be able to speak and be heard and understood. If we're able to create that kind of psychological safety in a room, and for people to be able to voice even differing opinions, and if we take those opinions, all of them together in our discussions and decision making, then we are all the better in terms of being a team and as a business. We make the right decisions and better decisions. And I think that is the key to the future and to reach new heights as a business.
That's a great answer. So as we look ahead, what are some of your biggest focus areas?
I think we've had a number of years of tailwind the last couple of years. And as we move forward, there are now some headwinds that we are facing. But at the same time, we have a new strategy to look forward to, and some transformation that we still continue to work on. I think the key focus then is to continue that momentum of our transformation and not to lose sight of that big goal of becoming the integrator of container logistics as we move forward.
Fantastic. But before I wrap up, just listening to you and hearing about your very impressive career, what would you tell yourself when you first walked into those Maersk doors all those years ago? What sort of advice would you give yourself? Because I know many people watching this will be wanting to sort of get some inspiration as well.
I would say, be yourself, continue to be authentic. Do not be afraid of who you are and for speaking out for what you feel is right. And that's really it. Just speak up and be yourself. That's something that I tell a lot of people who ask me that question. Speak up, be yourself, and don't compromise on that.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today, Aruna, and we look forward to seeing what's next in your career.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.